Well, last time this guest joined me, I was actually in her own living room as she welcomed me into her own home. Alice Chun, who was actually fresh off a trip from the Turkey, earthquake, and then the Ukraine hospital that she visited, the Children's Hospital. And now she's got another disaster that SoLight Design is really on top of the ball of. First of all, Alice, thanks for joining me once again.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Alex. Always wonderful to talk to you again.
Let me talk to you about, firstly, before what SoLight's doing, what your thoughts personally are on what's happened in Maui. I mean, it's just tragic, isn't it?
Absolutely. Apparently, there's a lot of uh, there's a lot of moving parts happening there on the ground. There's apparently some um, challenges in terms of getting proper aid there. Most of it seems to be with right now finding, you know, the bodies. They're still looking for bodies, but apparently a lot of the people have either moved into hotels or Airbnbs, but there's still a great amount of people that were homeless before the fires, and um, there's some communities that are creating tent camps that are not able to get into housing. There's issues with tribal lands versus government lands versus um, NGOs coming in to help. Apparently, there's challenges, in terms of being respectful of the culture in Hawaii and the tribes that are in Hawaii. But I am I have a contact on the ground, which is a local community, and I talked to them and I said, when should I come? I was thinking about coming in September, and then they said, well, we need your help now. So now I'm flying out on Sunday in a couple of days. So and I'm putting about 240 lights in my luggage and bringing it there, and I'll be there next week. And I'll meet with this community, and hopefully I'll also make other connections while I'm there to get help to other communities. A lot of times when I go, it becomes a fluid ripple effect of connections, and sometimes I end up, getting other communities that need lights, and I end up going there as well, where in the beginning I might not have planned on doing it, but whilst I'm there, things become more fluid. And so I would expect something like that would happen on this trip as well.
Well, kudos to you for going to provide these lights. I feel like we rely on government so much, and yet here you are, an independent person who's built this business so light, doing more, dare I say, than the government. I know that might be a little controversial to say, but that's how it feels. That the people on the ground are doing more than our U.S. government right now when it comes to relief efforts.
Well, I think that there's been a lot of different news and, information going out there. It's apparently this is a very kind of complex situation because we are dealing with native Hawaiian tribes, and that is kind of the impetus of the challenge, apparently. So I don't know. I mean, I was thinking I'm flying into Maui. I'm not flying into a war zone, so there's not this kind of danger of being bombed or shot. But apparently, there's some sort of complexity of being in Maui. So I guess I'll learn more once I'm there. But apparently, it has been a little difficult for nonprofits or aid organizations to get in there to help.
Well, how did you connect on the ground? Did you already have people there that on the ground before this disaster happened? How did you build out there?
No, I mean, I just reached out to a whole, from my experience of just with nonprofit partnerships that we've worked together in different countries, like Operation Blessings. I've also been, I have a friend that has a home in Hawaii, and he also has connections down there, and he connected me with a community, and then they connected me with another community, and then I've been speaking with this one person who's actually going to take me to their community once I'm there. So it's really just, I kind of think that it's the stars aligning when things like this happen. When it comes to my work, it seems like it always aligns this way, just from the pure magnitude of all the people that I have met or spoken to throughout this time with the Solar Pop and SoLight, and the people that I've met along the way, and or even people that interview me for radio shows or podcasts or TV shows. They end up, I'll reach out to people and just knowing certain things about them, like knowing that this one friend lives in Hawaii, was able to connect me with a community on the ground, and it wasn't a nonprofit or a government or it wasn't the Red Cross. I usually don't go with the big NGOs because it's very complicated in terms of their bureaucracy or their rules. It's kind of strange that way because they're a nonprofit. They're supposed to be helping people, but
sure.
But it's been difficult for me to work with them in terms of helping people. Anyway, I'm not going to mention any names, but
well, that's why being on your own is so
say,
powerful to me. And are you visiting children this time, or just any kind of relief that you can bring through these solar lights?
Oh, I mean, I always run into children, of course. I hope so, but right now it's community. I actually know very little. I'm just going to go there and meet with the people that I've been talking to this past week, and of course I know that for sure this one community needs our lights, because that's why I'm leaving on Sunday, not a week later. And so I'm sure about that, and then while I'm there, I'm sure I'm going to meet other people. So I guess I'll let you know when I get back, Alex.
That would be great, just to hear on the ground reports. Now, have you ever been to Maui before all of this happened?
No, never. Never been to Hawaii.
I am not, but just the pictures, the images just looks really rough. I mean, it's why. By the way, how does it feel that SoLight can continue to have this impact, tragedy after tragedy, just be on the ground there? What's that like for you?
It's not. You know what? It's the light at the end of the tunnel. So when I go in, it's more like I'm giving the light at the end of the tunnel. And people say that when, so many people, they don't realize what an inspiring and empowering environment it is to go in there and create hope and make lives better and to help others. It's an incredible experience, and it's also a rewarding experience, and it's a gift to me as well. It's not just about, giving to others, but it's also giving to my spirit and soul of my purpose. So it's not, I mean, when I went into Ukraine, everyone said that it would be terrible, the bombings, and I met such amazing people, resilient people with great sense of humor, and the Ukrainians are so strong, and stories of incredible children that were so strong and resilient and beautiful. So it's not, people think that it's this terrible thing to go into these disaster zones, but it's actually, being on the threshold, that cusp between the light of the end of the tunnel and being outside of the tunnel. So it's not as tragic as you think. Of course, there are incredibly traumatizing and tragic stories that you're going to hear and discover and realize through the experience. Of course. But the thing to think about is beyond that, to think outside the box, that the only way we're all going to heal is by doing something, a little something, however small it is, to help in order for us to move forward and progress and to heal.
We filmed for about an hour or so when I was last with you, and I didn't mention or ask this one question I've been thinking of as we were talking today. When you go there, Alice Chun, do they just get the lights, or do you talk with them, and do you walk them through how it works? How does that process go?
I do all of that. I talk to them, and if there's children, I always talk to them about the power of the sun and how they have power inside of them, which is a light in their hearts and their minds, and how powerful that is, and that they need to use that light to fight for their dreams and ambitions. I always, no matter where I go, I always run into children, and if I get a chance to share the story of the solar puff, I'll always do that. And of course, I do, if I'm with people, then, I train the people that I'm with, to distribute the lights and tell them how it works so that they can continue to distribute on their own as well.
Well, I guess that is part of it, to make them sustainable after you leave. Now, we didn't get a chance to talk about the Turkey earthquake trip. Tell us about a story that stuck out to you while you were out there.
Well, I did visit a tent camp for children, and it was maybe 5,000 children there. It was a school set up and tents everywhere. It seemed like rows of tents for miles and miles. And it was set up by the Ministry of Education and NATO, and it was gated, and I was able to visit each classroom with our lights and distribute them to the children. And I would ask each class, how many of you are going to be using these lights in tents tonight? And they all raised their hand. So, and then I also tell them the story about how important and powerful sunlight is, as well as the light inside them. And many of the children really, could relate to that, many of the children lost loved ones in the earthquake, lost their home, lost any sense of, history of their lives before that. So they, some of the children started crying when I started telling that story because it was so moving. But I think the beauty of it is that they're able to use that as a way of empowering themselves to keep going and hope, basically. I mean, if anything, I think the biggest gift that I try to give is hope. So, many of the people that we visited were intense, and many of the, areas that we visited in Turkey, Hatay, Turkey, was very, very damaged. Apparently, it was the closest city to the epicenter, and it looked like a war zone. These buildings had huge holes in them. They were falling apart. There's rubble everywhere, and fields and fields and fields of concrete rubble of all of the the demolition and cleanup. They had to put that somewhere. So there's just fields and fields of rubble from all of the buildings collapsing, and many people just starting their lives over again. Like, I met a woman with 3 children. They were living in a tent. The father was off in another city trying to get work as a busboy or a waiter. But their life in Hatay was that they had a very prosperous life with a grocery store, and now that grocery store is gone and their home is gone. So they're just rebuilding their lives again. And there's many, many stories like that. And there's many children that are living in tents. And they're going to be there for a while until, their government, I think, is rapidly trying to build, temporary housing, transitional housing. But in any case, I think, it's a dire and long rebuilding process that's going to happen. Same thing with Maui. It's going to be even more complicated, I think, because of all of the issues with tribal land. But
Yes. SoLight, by the way, has just a reach all over. I want to ask you, if last time we talked, you mentioned Hillary and you are friends. When you go on these trips, do you alert the Clinton team, hey, I'm doing this? I mean, do they support you in any way? Or was it just the TV series? Or is there still a connection to the Clintons?
I did reach out to Hillary, and she did give me some advice about Maui. It was very brief, and I don't know. I don't speak with her that often, but I did have a brief text with her last week about this trip.
I know that her president, that she was vice president under, was, born in Hawaii. He's Hawaii's native son. So I'm sure she was out there through the Obamas as well as just personal trips. So I just didn't know if there was any connection to that. Alice, when you leave these places and bring light to these places, when you leave, how do you keep the connection going? I mean, how did you keep the connection going in Ukraine? You mentioned you were still connected to the ABC reporters that were talking to you on Good Morning America. So is it just your nature to stay connected like that? Or is there like part of the purpose is just stay connected after you leave these different areas?
I think it's probably a combination of both. I mean, it really depends on the chemistry, and anyone can. Also, Alex, anyone can do what I'm doing. Honestly, I'm not a superhero. I'm just a mom. I'm a woman, Korean woman, and I tend to like people, and I think anyone can make friends when they travel. I think it's a natural thing to do. So that's all I have to say about that. You know, everyone has the power to make friends wherever they go, whether it's at home or abroad or when they're traveling or on a humanitarian mission. It's up to you to make that decision. And I think I just appreciate people, and I'm curious about people, and I tend to keep connections because they want to keep connections with me as well. So,
Does the
did I answer your
SoLight light
question?
ever die? I mean, obviously, if it's not in the solar energy field, if you will, like under the sun, it will not gain its energy. So, how do you find it tough for people to keep that light under the sun, or are they pretty good with it once they get the SoLight?
They're pretty good with it. Yes, they understand right away.
Well, that's pretty good. Well, when my dad actually did pass about a month after we met, and that
I'm
light that
so
you gave
sorry.
us really shined in the home after he passed. So thank you for that.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear about your father passing. I'm sorry.
It's he died in peace, and I just remember I visited you right as that whole thing was going on. So I want to thank you for giving us that light through that time.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure, and my condolences. I'm so sorry about your father, and I hope you and your family are all right, and healing from that.
Thank you, and thank you for that interview during that time. It kind of gave me a calm, actually, on St. Patrick's Day weekend. Uh, one last thing is, where can people find SoLight's social media and website, and also will you be posting pictures from Maui with these lights?
I'll probably be sending out a newsletter of the trip to Maui, and they can find us at, solight-design.com, SOLIGHT-design.com. And we do have a giveaway page right now with Maui disaster relief. And I'm flying there on Sunday to deliver lights to people that need them.
Well, that is good. Do you have I know you're a faith believer. Do you pray when you go to these different areas, and do you pray with the people while you're on the ground?
It depends on the community. If they want to pray, I definitely will participate, and honestly, I pray every day. So it doesn't matter whether I'm going somewhere or not. I pray all the time. So in any case, thank you so much for having me, Alex. It's really great to talk to you again.
Alice Chun, thanks so much, and God bless you on your flight to Maui and your trip to Maui. And please stay in touch with us and keep us updated on what goes
Okay.
on while you're over there. And well, of course, we'll talk after you get back.
All right. Thanks, Alex. Take care. Bye-bye.
That was Alice Chun of SoLight Design. She is the CEO and founder, and she's been working to have one leg up in Hawaii, in Maui, as they go through this rough time of devastation and really trying to piece their lives back together after these wildfires. And always respect Alice's trips to these different areas and bringing light to really those who need it on the Alex Guerra Podcast Network. Thanks for listening.